Obsession is what? When you're thinking about it constantly. Compulsion is what? When your whole life gets centered around using. So the more compulsive that you are, the more, it means just that more of your life is centered around keeping a stash and using when you gotta. Okay? Late stage addicts, everything in their life supports their stash and their ability to use when they have to. Okay? People that abuse alcohol and drugs, they like to abuse it occasionally, but it isn't the whole focus of their life at that point. Okay? But the later progression that you get, the more that happens. Okay? So these are your rituals of using here. When you start getting into the thoughts, thinking, feeling like you did when you were using or like when you wanted to use, if you have behaviors, if you're around people, places, and things, if you're acting like you used to use, it can trigger that again, your rituals of using. And they did, I read some research on that said, like, if you're in your ritual of using, if you don't interrupt that ritual of using, you have a 90% chance of going back and using again. That's better odds than the house has in Vegas, you know? Vegas wins, I think they said like 57, 58% of the time, the house wins. Okay. Have you seen the house? Anybody been to Vegas but me? Oh, it's a nice house, man. You know what I mean? That's a nice house. Okay. They win 57, 58% of the time. This at 90, you have a much higher chance of using, and this can be automatic, right? Because the feelings can be triggered also by, remember we talked about the brain? Like, how long does it take for your brain to heal?
2 years.
Up to 2 years for your brain, especially if you're a stimulant addict, right? It's going to take about 2 years. And that when you get stressed out, the brain wakes up and says what? Feed me. Feed me. Stress reactivates that part of the brain that says, feed me. And so it's biological at that point too. That's a feeling, okay? That's an urge. That's a biological feeling that feels like if I don't use right now, I feel like I'm going to die because it's tied to the fight or flight part of your brain, the pleasure center. So when you get stressed out enough, tired enough, it reactivates that part of the brain, and cravings at that point don't feel like choices. And that's why the more damaged that your brain is, the longer you've been using, the more things that remind you of it in your environment. That's why some people say to me, like, they go, Chris, I just thought about using it before I knew it. I was high. I'm not lying to you, man. It just happened. And I go, I believe you. Right? There's no excuse good enough to pick up and use today. But lots of things are going to make you want it, think about it, and get the craving. And it's going to be really powerful some days, just depending on how stressed out you are. You know, I went to a meeting Friday night. I was talking about Friday morning. I got a call from another friend of mine who, from his family, that I started sponsoring him 10 years ago, and his wife decided to leave him, and they found him dead. He started drinking 2 months ago. He'd been sober for 10 years. But that his feelings, emotionally, he got so overwhelmed with that it triggered the thoughts about drinking again. And his behavior was that he did what practicing addicts do, is he started isolating and pulling away from his support system. And I kept saying, I'm worried about you. I can't make you come to meetings. I can't make you come to my house. I can't do any, but the help's here if you want it. And I think the last time I saw him, I knew he was drinking because he had that, I call it the devil look. I don't know how to describe it any other way. Like the devil was in him. And I saw him at his house and he was like this. It was like evil, look on his face. And he says, I don't care. I don't care about you, AA. He was cursing, I don't care. I want to drink, get the hell out of my house. And I said, you ever tried to win a fight with somebody actively drinking? And they got to have it, right? Or actively high? Because their brain isn't, you're trying to argue logic with somebody who's not there, okay? So they found him Friday morning with 4 leaders around him, 4, fifths around him. Dead. I've been 2 months of starting to drink again. He has been sober or clean, I guess, for 10 years. But his sobriety, he started acting like an addict again. He got overwhelmed, and instead of asking for help, he started isolating. And then he got into self-pity, right? I mean, he had the right to grieve the loss of his relationship. Because his wife, just came home one day out of the blue and just said, you know what? I don't want to be married to you anymore. I'm 40 years old in my life. She had a midlife crisis. And said, you're boring because you're in recovery. It's no fun anymore, right? So she went out and found all these men to be with. So I'm going, well, maybe she's got a sex addiction. I don't know. Okay, who knows? So remember, he got better and she didn't. But because he started acting like that again, okay? So a lot of early recovery is moving away from acting and thinking and behaving like we did before and starting to pay attention to am I behaving like a person in recovery, or am I still behaving like a person over here? I used to work at the Bowen Center down in Huntington, and I had a 16-year-old kid that was in the adolescent addiction program, and he was trying to get sober, right? And he looked like a Rastafarian. He had dreadlocks, white kid, right? He had he was like Bob Marley wannabe, okay? He had dreadlocks. He looked like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. You know what I mean? And he talked like dude, hey, what's up? He talked like a valley dude. He talked like a pothead. Okay? So he came in one day and he was just down, right? He was just all down in the dumps. And I said, what's up? Why are you feeling you look down today? He goes, I just got turned down for another job, man. And I go, really? I said, where'd you apply? And he said, well, at the Kroger right across the street. I was just applying for, bagging, being a bag boy and carrying stuff out and stocking. And they wouldn't even hire me. And I said, well, when did you go to the interview? And he goes, well, I just came from there. And I said, you like that? Okay? He had on ratty jeans down to here, right, halfway down his ass, okay? He had on a NORML t-shirt. You know what NORML is? The National Organization to Regulate Marijuana Laws, okay? With a big pot leaf on the front, okay? That with Bob Marley hair all pulled back with the big dreadlocks and everything. And, all the bandanas wrapped around his wrist all the way up to here. And he looked like, God, I said, you went to your job interview like that? Like every piercing that you could have on his face. Oh my God, And he said, yeah. He goes, I'm clean, man. I told them they could drop me. I'm clean, I'm whatever. Because the guy said, and I said, dude, you're still behaving like a pothead. I said, you may not be smoking pot, but you're behaving like one. If you want to have people think of you as not a pothead, you might want to start dressing, cut your hair, do something a little. I want you to be an individual, of course, but I mean, the image you're putting out there, nobody's going to hire you. He said, oh, really? And I said, yeah, because they're going to look, what are they going to think? Is he going to show up for work? Or if he shows up, they're going to, are you selling dope here? Okay. Are you a high on the job? Are you whatever? They're going to look at him like, you're a bad risk. Because you're going to get high and forget to come in, right? You're just going to forget to come in. All right. So that's behaving your way is starting to think of yourself differently. You have to behave your way into believing differently about yourself. Okay, and if you've been around AA long enough or 12 steps long enough, they'll say things like, you got to fake it till you make it. Have you heard that saying? Okay, that means you have to behave as if you're a recovering person, even when you don't want to. So you go to meetings. There's all saying in 12-step meetings that when you don't want to go to a meeting is when you should go to a meeting, right? That's when you should go to a meeting. It's when you really, really don't want to. And that will be a choice that day, not a feeling. That will be a decision and not a feeling. You will not wake up and go, woohoo, yeah, yeah, I'm eager to go. You go, and then you feel better afterwards, okay? So behaving your way into that differently, I don't know, anybody else beside me, at the end of my addiction, I was a huge thief. I mean, I stole every house I went to. People would call me up afterwards, hey, Cruz, did you happen to see my watch? And I go, nope. Hang up and go, not since I pawned it. Okay, so I could go get some drugs, right? Okay, right? Just huge addict. huge thief in my addiction because I had to keep my stash, right? Because addiction steals your character over time. So I shoplifted, did whatever I had to do just to keep my stash. And I boosted a lot too, right? Okay, so you've been to boosting is stealing and go sell it back and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so when I first started going to my sponsor's house, I was really serious about it. He would like, every time I came out of his bathroom door, he'd have his arms crossed and he'd go, empty your pockets. Or when I'd leave his house, for 2 years, he said, empty your pockets. And I'm like, what? What? He'd go, oh my God, quit stealing from me. He says, if you want to be honest, you have to act as if you're honest. People in recovery don't steal, Chris. We go out, we'd be in a store, right? And he'd say, before we get past the checkout place, he'd go, empty your pockets. And I go, what? And he'd, all right, Bill. He'd go, damn it, quit stealing. Oh my God, he says, you're a thief, and you're going to keep thinking you're a thief if you keep acting like a thief. And I said, but I'm afraid I don't have enough money. How am I going to get stuff and everything? And he goes, you have to take a little leap of faith here, Chris. If you do the next right thing, God will give you what you need. I go, well, I don't believe that yet. He goes, of course you don't believe it because you haven't done it. You actually haven't taken the leap of faith yet. So that's why you got to hang around people who are where you want to be, right? Because step 2 of a 12-step program says what? Anybody know? Came to believe, right? It doesn't say we showed up believing. It says we came to the meetings, then we kind of came to, somebody said it took 2 years for the fog to lift. Okay? Yeah, okay, 2 years about for the fog to lift. We came to, and then we came to believe because we saw that other people had what we wanted. Okay? So it's a process of starting to believe that recovery might be a good thing. Because nobody ever walks into AA or NA, wakes up one day and just said, hey, I heard they have a self-improvement program down the road. Everybody comes in with heat on their ass, right? I haven't met a person yet that didn't come into a 12-step program with heat on their butt somehow, right? We all do. It's just part of the process, okay? So most of us would rather not be there at the beginning. It takes a while before the have-tos, have to go to a meeting, have to do all this work, become the want-tos. It took about 9 months before I wanted to go to a meeting. I kept saying, I still don't want to go. And he goes, that'll change. Oh, it hasn't changed yet. And he goes, well, just keep coming. He says, you're no different than anybody else. Everybody else had the have-tos become the want-tos. And I was like, and then it did. Okay, but I had to see that it was true for other people first. Okay? So